Welcome to another session of Three Ball Walk. Today's actually a first of our many weeks where we're filming, taping, doing the show on a Monday.
On Monday.
Preview of the World Series starts tomorrow, Tuesday.
Yep.
Maybe this will be up by then.
I think so.
That'd be great.
It's got a chance.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting. This week's session brought to you by Dasani. After you had the Dr. Pepper last week,
You're going to go with Coke product this week?
well, it can be Aquafina, it can be Zephyr Hills, it can be anything, any kind of water, anything that eliminates droughts. Because that's basically what we're talking about when we bring up the World Series.
Yeah.
The World Series of droughts, and this water will end somebody's drought. Right now, my thirst, but
I think the game tomorrow night will end somebody's drought. It'll end two teams' drought, at least playing in the World Series.
Yep.
isn't that amazing? And right across the street, 30 minutes earlier,
The Cleveland Cavaliers will
Get-
get
get
their
their rings, which is kind of interesting, and
Get
that's what they're playing.
Get their rings across the street?
They will get their rings at 7:30 tip-off time for the opening day. Tomorrow is NBA opening day.
Hockey's already started.
NBA
Yeah, I
opening
saw a
day.
hockey match.
Cavaliers host, and they get their rings in a pregame ceremony. And 30 minutes later, the Indians will try to earn theirs as well. Right across the street.
How bad would it be to be a Cleveland sports fan right now? I mean,
Tomorrow night?
Think about that. You know, you've waited so long to get a championship. Now you get a championship, and you want to go watch the guys get the rings, but it's the first game of the World Series. Which one do you go to? Well,
There's worse problems.
if you're a good fan, I guess you go watch the first part of that. You zip over and watch the game after.
Well, it depends how much money you have. You seen the ticket prices for the World Series this year?
Or for the opener.
For the World Series, like Cleveland prices are like $3,200 a game.
Oh, wow.
The Cubs are like
The Cubs is
$7,500 a
ridiculous.
game. It's ridiculous.
$7,500
Yeah.
A game.
Tickets for Wrigley Field.
Well, I would not be.
impossible.
Get DirecTV.
I would not be watching any of those games live. I can just
No,
say that.
heck no.
I'd be waiting for the guy out after the third inning so I could sneak in.
Sneak it
Sneak
into
in.
the World Series.
It's been done.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting, and not only is it a series of drought, but it's something that we were talking to a little earlier before we actually get into the matchups and the teams and the baseball end of it. Let's look at the side things. You know, the droughts. Obviously, the Cubs have longer drought than the Indians. The Indians were there just 19 years ago, and one as recently as 60 years ago.
Yeah.
You know? And while
They won. The last time that the Indians won, none of us were alive.
no,
Live.
the last time the Cubs were even there.
My
None
knees
of us
feel
were
like
alive.
they were here, but other than that, no. I'll tell you one of the cool stories for this World Series. You talk about a team that usually doesn't have a drought is the impact of the New York Yankees on this World Series, because Cleveland went out and made a deal. They got Andrew Miller from the Yankees, and the Cubs went out and got their closer, Aroldis Chapman, from
The Yankees.
So.
And it's really going to be interesting how those two guys play out in this series.
And
They didn't start their careers with the Yankees, though.
No.
Okay,
No.
so just checking.
no one starts their careers.
No.
Jeter.
They eventually
Jeter
go there
did.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's
and make their way. No, and that gets to the baseball aspect. The other side, besides the drought and everything like that.
Before we get to the baseball side, can we finally now allow Bartman to fade into the distance, please? Can we not?
Thank you!
Can we not see him anymore? I mean, yeah. So the guy made one play, but how many other plays in that game 20 years ago were available to be made in the moment, and you didn't get a hit, you didn't get the out, you didn't whatever?
At the game the other night, there was somebody had a sign about we're not rid of the GOAT in Bartman. I'm thinking to myself, Steve Bartman didn't do anything. Any of those people, if they were sitting in that seat, wouldn't have done anyway.
And I don't want to get this into a Steve Bartman.
I said let's get away with him.
And everything like that. No,
Let him on with his life. Come
but
back.
the thing that has amazed me most about Steve Bartman is the fact that it was a foul ball. It did not put any Marlins on base. It did not.
Exactly.
It was a foul ball. The next pitch could have been strike 3,
Amen.
and it was like it nothing
Yeah, exactly.
happened.
That's what I mean. So,
It was a foul.
so let's please, if you're a Cubs fan, can we now not vilify Steve Bartman anymore?
Right.
But I'll tell you one thing, and you see Steve Bartman there with his little sweatshirt and his little hoodie and everything like that. Well, I'll tell you what, that was in early October. In November, sweatshirt and the hoodie isn't going to get by for you, and it's one of the things I
You think it's gonna be
remember.
cold?
Lake Michigan or Lake Erie? I'm trying to debate which one of the two. I'm trying to figure, is it going to snow for games 3, 4, and 5, or will the snow be there by 6 and 7? I remember, and we opened with my World Series ring from 1997, and game 3 of that World Series, okay, was not as cold as game 4, but game 3 was the largest difference of temperature for the first pitch, where first pitch for game 2 had been 78 degrees in Miami.
Cool night in Miami.
And game 3 was 20-something degrees. It snowed in the warm-ups. I have a photo, which I still have in my office, you've seen, of me and Gary Sheffield sitting on the top step, and he's got a hoodie with the cap, with the mask and everything, and I've got this long trench coat, freezing while it's snowing in the background. And that was the largest difference between two temperatures from back-to-back games. The ironic part is game 4 was the coldest, still to this day, the coldest temperature for the start of any World Series game in history. It was colder the following night. Wow. And now it's Chicago and Cleveland. And now, and we bickered and we griped about the days off and the wild card and just the delay and how many off days. Right. Look what happens, okay? Right. Today, both of you guys, happens to be the 20th anniversary of Jim Leyritz. And I knew today.
There's a good chance that you're about to get punched in the face.
But my point being is,
the fact that being recorded is the only thing keeping you right now from getting punched in the face. All right, yes, we know. Keep moving on.
But the World Series is ending. This one hasn't even started.
Hasn't started yet.
Hasn't even started. It's going to go November.
Right.
Sure.
In Cleveland and Chicago, how will that affect the game?
Well, I think baseball is one of the sports that is definitely affected by the elements more than football. I mean, I think that my question, I don't know this, and you guys are more baseball knowledgeable as far as equipment. How does the cold weather affect the bat or the ball? You know, in football you have the ball.
Did you love taking those early morning batting practices?
But I'm just thinking the wood in general. The wood in general, how will it affect the players' bats, and will that affect? Because we can get to this later. We have some people who wrote in about their predictions. But one person wrote in about home runs leaving Wrigley Field, possibly. But if it's that cold...
Well, it depends on the wind. I mean, Wrigley's going to depend on the wind.
The wind's blowing out.
Do you see more bats break because of the cold?
No, the cold weather's not going to affect the bat that much because the bat is pretty dense wood. It affects your hands.
Your hands.
Because if you get one on the inside part of your hands, you don't stop feeling the buzz in your hand till about 3 innings later.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it hurts so bad to get jammed. So nobody's going to want to get jammed inside, and pitchers are going to want to pitch inside. And it's going to be the guy that doesn't miss his spot. And if you do miss your spot and they can open up and they hit it on the sweet spot, it's going to, again, the Wrigley will depend on the wind. If the wind's blowing in,
this time of year, it comes off the lake, the wind will be blowing out.
Okay.
And they've already said, you know, the wind's blowing out, but you're absolutely right with the hands. But it was interesting. Have you seen this piece going around and everyone, the Fox little piece with Frank Thomas and Pete Rose and Alex Hardy? Good stuff.
Good stuff.
And Pete Rose sits there and says, you know, everyone complains about it's too hot. Well, pitchers get tired. Everyone complains it's too cold and well, pitchers can't get warmed up. He says, you got to sit there and look at elements and turn it into your favor, and that's something I always did, which I found interesting.
I think worse than even the bat, worse the effect on batting is the effect on the fielding when it's cold. Because when you're cold, you're standing out there. I remember the first college game I played in late February in Alabama. We started the first pitch, it was 32 degrees, and that's cold for Alabama. And so by the time the game was over, it was in the mid-20s, and I couldn't feel my toes at third base. And I remember turning to the coach at Montevallo where we were playing, the opposing coach, and I said, I hope to God nobody hits me a ball. I said, because I can't even move. I can't feel my fingers. Really, I can't feel my toes.
It is. And I mean, and even to the point where, from the pitching perspective, you sit there and you say, okay, you get a rally going and you get a decent inning and score a couple runs.
Right.
Well, that plays into the other team, you know, being able to hit as well, because while... Now we're wrapping up. We had weather problems, blizzard here in Florida.
Came right through, he just blew right in.
We had a rain delay, now we're back. Eddie's back. We're actually filming under a different format. We're going to see how this goes, and maybe this could be something
It could work.
Do it in three.
It might work. I don't know how it's going to be. I don't know how
We'll
it'll
find out.
sound either.
We were talking about the World Series, the Indians.
Yep.
We were talking about the
weather.
Cubs. We were
Cubs.
talking about the weather. We were talking about, I was about to get into, back to, and I hate to harp, but it's just my only experience of being in a World Series, and it just happened to be cold like it's going to be here. And I remember I opened up talking about the drop in weather between Game 2 to Game 3 when we went to Cleveland.
Right.
And that game, coincidentally enough, Game 3, finished 14-11. 7-7
Yep.
top of the ninth. The Marlins scored 7. The Indians came back with 4 in the bottom. And I remember Bobby Bonilla sitting there talking about what a terrible game it was. And his quote, Eddie, was, "They don't call us the boys of summer for nothing."
Yeah, I can imagine that he did not like playing in that weather. You know, I don't think anybody really likes playing in that cold weather, playing baseball. But, you know, I guess that's one of the things when you expand the season, expand the playoffs. What are you going to do? You're gonna cut regular season games?
Or eliminate Cleveland and Chicago from being in it.
Well, I don't think
They've done
that's
that
what
for
quite
7
fair.
years,
Then-
so.
We didn't have this problem for a number of years, but you
They
know,
played the Yankees.
the Yankees play in cold weather.
Yeah, I mean it's.
unless you make everybody north of the temperate zone build an
Not
indoor
eligible.
stadium.
Minnesota did it. And look, they've gotten
Outside.
into a few World Series
Yeah.
because of it.
Yeah, well, it definitely, you know, I think helps your fan base. But you know, if you're fans in Cleveland and you're fans in Chicago, it doesn't matter
No.
if it's
No, they're
-2 and snowing. You're going to be at the ballpark.
They're going to be there.
And even if they call the game, you're still going to be there at the ballpark. So you say, I went to the game even though it got called. I don't care if there's a foot and a half of snow. I'm showing up.
It was amazing to me was in the post-game show, which you talked about before with Rodriguez and Thomas and Rose, was all the people in Chicago who were there. And all I could think about was on NBC when the Olympics were this summer, and they'd have like who was the host of their wrap-up show, and there'd be 20 people in Brazil. But all the people in Chicago that are just rabid for this. And did you hear what they're going to do? They put a petition out for Cleveland. They want Joe Buck out of the booth and bring Bob Uecker in to do the Cleveland games. And they're doing a petition. Harry
That's
Doyle,
ne-
man, you got to have him. And
It's never going to happen.
It's not going to happen, no. But that's
And they're
And
not
Wild
going
Thing
to
to
and they're
come in
not
and throw the
they're not going to use Andrew Miller to close out games. They're going to have Ricky Vaughn.
Ricky Vaughn,
Rick
California Penal League.
and Jobu. I mean, it's exciting to see 2 teams that haven't been there in forever.
And the little 12-year-old kid starting game 1 for the Cubs.
For the Cubbies, yeah. I mean, they made movies about this because it was so unlikely to ever have happened. As people were like, that's never going to happen when the Cubs and the Indians are playing each other. And now, you know,
It's happening.
And the travel time between the two places is cut down, so that's got to be great if you're production people.
Both Central Time Zone. I mean,
Yeah.
they're both
It's-
Midwest teams.
It won't be too late. The game start. I mean,
Well, the game's gonna start no
You
matter-
gotta think Fox is excited. I mean, to have
Oh.
this series. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is it going to be on regular Fox?
Regular Fox.
Or
It's
is it going to be
regular
on the
Fox?
Fox
Regular
Sports?
Fox.
Or
Well, I checked the other
not on
night.
the Food Network?
Not on the Food Network, on the
We're
shopping
moving.
channel. It's going to be on regular Fox.
Well, that's good.
And
At least
so-
they're moving up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
That
would
just-
prefer having Joe Buck out of there, truthfully.
I do
but,
too. I'm with you.
and especially, I'd really prefer a whole different set of in-game color commentators.
You don't like Smoltz?
No, I don't. I love Smoltz as a player, but I don't like him as a commentator.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's okay.
You know, we're talking World Series. I won't go there. We'll go next week. And remember, we got to talk about A-Rod because I'm impressed with A-Rod.
He's very
in the
good.
studio,
I think so.
interviewing.
He asks good questions. I know we're
And he's got good
he's
insight.
good. But he's good. We can talk about that next week.
And the World
No.
Series guys, you know, just think about that. Just think about what all has happened since the Cubs have been in the World Series. You know, you saw the stuff that was on ESPN as reported. That's true. There was no other leagues, no other professional leagues at the time.
There were no black players.
There was no black players. There were no sliced bread hadn't been invented yet.
There were no guys. Hey,
Milk still came in glass containers delivered to
Your
your door by the milkman. So
and people didn't sit around in Gainesville, Florida, to talk about the game on some little. And when the one camera
Breaks down.
breaks down, you got to back up right there. And
yeah, it's kind of weird to think about that. That you know, of all those things that have happened all those years, and all of the generations of Cub fans, especially, who have lived and died waiting to see the Cubs be in the World Series. So it's got to be special for them.
And we'll talk back, and we'll talk about some people. And I guess who we'll start talking about is you talk about those generation of Cubs fans and how special it is. Well, Theo Epstein also brought a World Series championship to another generation
Of
Boston fans.
Yeah.
And that in itself is just worth talking about, his impact and what he means.
Are we going to get to any of the baseball players in the next segment?
Yes, we will.
We will.
All right. That's what people write in. So
Let's get there. We'll get to those questions in just a minute. You get a chance tomorrow night, watch baseball, World Series. What else is on Tuesday night? And then we'll see where it goes from there.
Play ball.
Okay.
It's going to be, because one person wrote in about Francona, how he was the manager when the Red Sox won. Now